Hello, Zimbabwe. Welcome to the third episode of Know Your Constitution, a program which is being brought to you by Junior Court Council as its mandate to ensuring the increase and the creation of constitutional awareness. My name is Bridget Mbondiani. I'm your host, and today I'm being joined by Miss Denise. Denise, please give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Thank you so much, Bridget. So my name is Denise Nyaradzo Juma. I'm a fourth year law student at the University of Zimbabwe. I'm also part of the Secretariat of the Junior Court Council. I'm a human rights advocate and an aspiring lawyer.
Okay, interesting. So today we're going to be looking at Section 61 of the Constitution, which is your freedom of expression and your freedom of media, right? So could you please give us an interpretation and understanding to the contents of the section?
All right. So I think it's also important to understand, and as we have known from previous episodes, that the Constitution is indeed the supreme law of Zimbabwe, as enshrined in Section 2 of our Constitution. So in the Constitution, we have the Bill of Rights, which is part of the Constitution. So Section 61 is also under the Bill of Rights. So we have freedom of expression and freedom of the media. So this is the right to express, to be able to express yourself, and the right to be allowed to access media, different media forms, right? So when we talk of freedom of expression and freedom of the media, it's basically in two: the people that probably receive the media and the people that give out the media. So what am I talking about? We've got your media houses that broadcast. So we've got the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, different newspaper houses, they give out information. So the Section 61 protects the rights of broadcasters in the sense that it says that broadcasters are supposed to be protected, where they get their sources, the type of media they convey, because when conveying media or when expressing certain things, it has to be in the interest of the public. Then when we're coming to freedom of expression is whereby one is guaranteed the freedom to seek, to receive, to communicate information, be it for educational purposes, for advocacy purposes, and anything that is encompassed around the. So when we're talking about freedom of expression, it's not basically just what you are allowed to say or what you can say or cannot say. It's things that you say that are for the benefit of the public, or things that you communicate, or information that you're supposed to receive that is supposed to benefit you. So when we're being allowed access to the media, it has to be things that benefit people and benefit the public in a good light and not in a negative light. So yeah, that's basically Section 61.
Okay. So from my understanding, you're saying that we've got this freedom to express ourselves, but however, it's limited to a certain extent whereby you are only allowed to communicate information that is beneficial to the public, and you're allowed to receive information that is that you should receive and not access information. But then over the time in Zimbabwe, we have had certain arguments surrounding the whole freedom of expression, especially. So as a law student, in your own analysis, would you say that we do have that freedom of expression in Zimbabwe, and to what extent is it being limited, or to what extent is it being guaranteed?
All right, before I even delve into that, we must know that with every right, there's a responsibility and a limitation to a right, correct? So, for the limitation of freedom of expression, this is why I said that expression in English terms is just basically saying out what you feel, what you think is necessary, and not paying any regards to what it's supposed to do to the next person. But then when we're now coming to section 61, it's expression that is for the benefit, the good benefit of the public, right? So when we come to the limitations, we've got Section 31 of the Criminal Law Codification and Reform Act. It limits freedom of expression to instances where a person is maliciously conveying a message about a person. These are your cases of defamation where I go about and misrepresent Miss Mambundiani, or you come and misrepresent me, or per se in instances where people think that it's right to misrepresent probably the president or the government, right? In freedom of expression is also limited to instances whereby there's incitement of violence, in instances where there's hate speech towards a certain community, towards a certain group of people, and things like that. So when we're talking of freedom of expression, people have to be mindful of the things that they are expressing, and this is why there is also the law that encompasses defamation of character, whereby a person is allowed to sue for things that you would have expressed. Yes, you have the freedom to say whatever you want, but then if it's then misrepresenting me and disregarding me and ruining my reputation, then you're not really exercising your right in a good light as the constitution or as the legislators would have wanted this freedom of expression to be taken. So my view as a law student when it comes to freedom of expression, like I've mentioned before, people are allowed to express how they feel, but as long as it's limited to things that do not incite violence, things that do not disregard or misrepresent a person, things that are not amounting to hate speech or any degradation of any form to any other person. This is how freedom of expression is supposed to look like. And when it comes to the media is basically supposed to be the voice of the people, and things that when we read it, we're supposed to view our country or view a certain project or thing in a good light. So when it comes to access to the media, we see on Twitter, people are being they're being bashed in the name of freedom of expression. People are being trolled on Twitter. That is not how freedom of expression is supposed to be. And I feel like when it comes to social media defamation, our courts still have a very long way to go to adapt to this digital era, because I feel like now with the digitalization of most things, most people are now inclined to thinking that they can be a keyboard warrior on any day and at any time. They can go and say things that they like, and that is not the whole essence of your freedom of expression or your freedom to the media, when you're disregarding or degrading somebody else or another company or anything.
Okay, interesting topic you asked there. I was actually planning on asking on, in relation to the internet, what would you say, what has been the effect? Since we all know that since the advent of COVID-19, we have now shifted to this whole digital era where everything is now centered on doing online business, online chats. And then how does that affect our freedom of expression and our freedom of media? And you have adequately touched on that. Now, in Zimbabwe, there is a lot of rumors pertaining to issues of press censorship. Would you have any comments in particular to that?
Okay. Well, what I would say I understand by press censorship would be incidents where information that is probably viewed and analyzed would be seen not to be fit to go around into the public for reasons whereby there will be prejudice of whatever party or whichever party is being talked about. and there won't be full understanding of, you know, what it really goes on. Because I understand news, especially the newspaper houses, they can cause a stir just by one headline on
Yeah.
the street that could say woman kills a lion barehanded, you know,
Yeah.
and everyone seems to wonder what exactly are people talking about. Or a woman, girl, a 59-year-old man rapes a 2-month year old baby, you know. Those highlights, that those, I mean, headlines that are eye catching, and you know, that get you to wonder, how did this happen, how did that happen? So sometimes when we talk of press censorship, I feel it's a necessary measure,
Okay. Interesting.
because there are some things that the public won't understand at face value without, you know, looking back into the history of whatever story would have been talked about, you know. So I feel like sometimes to protect the good of the public, it's really necessary to censor some of the things
But
that
then,
are
isn't
put in
that
the
an
press.
infringement now on the constitutional rights that we've been afforded?
um when you're talking of press censorship, like I said, freedom of the media is limited to things that do not incite violence, that do not incite hate. And the criminal codification goes on to talk about things that do not probably misrepresent the government, that things that do not make the public lose interest in law enforcement agencies like the army, police officers, so on and so forth. And we know it's very common, especially these days. The ZRP is on the mouth of everybody, and everyone is quick to say, you know, "Dosha, you know, this and
Yeah.
that people don't even have confidence in the police officers or the law enforcement anymore because of what has been circulating around the media. So I feel like in terms of press censorship, it's something that still protects the public, but also in when we're talking of freedom of expression, it's also a two-way, whereby, you know, it's contrasting, and you're trying to think, okay, the public is supposed to know that this is
What's happening?
what's happening.
Yes.
But then when things are now being said, especially by the media, I feel like the media also tries to twist things in a light that does not represent and you know, represent the enforcement or the agency or whatever they might be talking about very well. That anything else that happens after that, whether good or bad, everyone will just have a negative view of whatever would have been talked about. So I feel like when we're talking about freedom of expression, it's something that should not then for prejudice something that hasn't even happened in the future. And I feel like the social media has got that effect, that anything else after this is already destroyed before it even happened.
So even happen. Interesting. As we wrap it up, Miss Denise, what would you say is the importance of a young person knowing that they've got that freedom of expression and freedom to media, and also knowing its limitations? How does that change the life of a young person?
All right. I feel like knowing that you have acquired the right, or you're entitled, and rather, to the right of freedom of expression and the media allows you to be able to know that you have the right to access certain information, to receive or to communicate such information. For example, Section 59 of this constitution of the same constitution, right, provides for the right to demonstrate, right? When everyone talks of demonstration, they think of violence,
Yeah.
right? I feel like the right to demonstrate and the right to freedom of expression go hand in hand,
Yeah.
right? But what a young person must then understand is, when I'm expressing myself or when I'm communicating information, it has to be information that has to benefit Bridget T. It has to be information that Bridget T is not judgmental towards the next person before they even know it. They even know the person. Is not information that incites violence on another group, be it minority, be it a majority group. It has to be information that is supposed to benefit the general public of Zimbabwe. And what I would say, rather than just knowing your right, it is very, very important to know the limitations of that right before you can go out and speak that, I'm entitled to this, I'm entitled to that, I'm entitled to this. Yes, you may know you might be entitled to that, but with every entitlement, you have to know that there's a responsibility that follows that.
Perfect. So, with every right, every entitlement, when you're exercising your freedom of expression, your right to media, you have to be also well aware of the limitations that come with those so that you do not find yourself on the other side of the law, so that we keep ourselves safe always. And this is from us. Thank you very much.